close your eyes or walk out right now. She chose the dark. And if you think you know where this story is going, you don't. Stay with me, because what happens next will get under your skin and stay there. If you've been looking for something raw, dangerous, something that makes your pulse do things you can't explain, you just found it. Hit subscribe right now, because this channel delivers every single week. Now let's go. Seoul, 1987. The rain doesn't fall here, it attacks. It comes down hard against the glass towers, runs in rivers along the black asphalt, fills the gutters with the reflections of neon signs that advertise things nobody needs. The city smells like wet concrete and cigarette smoke, and something underneath that. Something expensive and corrupt, like money that was never clean to begin with. Aaliyah stands at the floor-to-ceiling window of the penthouse and watches the city drown. She is 28 years old. Her skin is dark brown and flawless in the way that only grief can make skin flawless, like suffering burned away everything soft and left something harder, more luminous underneath. Her hair is long and purple, falling just past her shoulders in thick waves that catch the light when she moves. There is a spiral tattoo on her right shoulder. She got it years ago, before Seoul, before any of this, when she still believed that marking her own body meant she owned it. She is wearing a red dress that dips low in the back, and she is not wearing it for anyone in this room. She is wearing it because red is the only color that feels honest tonight. Behind her, somewhere in the dark of the penthouse, Jae-Hwan breathes. She used to be afraid of him. That version of herself feels like a photograph of someone she once knew. 3 weeks ago, she freed him from prison. She ran a media campaign, leaked documents, shook hands with a prosecutor. When Jae-Hwan walked out of detention in his expensive dark suit with his short-cropped black hair and his cold, calculating gaze, he looked at her the way you look at someone who has just shown you a weapon you didn't know they were carrying. She thought that was the end of something. She understands now it was the beginning. He has been home 11 days. In 11 days, he has not raised his voice once. He moves through the penthouse like a man who has been reconfigured, quieter, slower, more deliberate, more dangerous in the way that a fire is more dangerous when it stops making noise. Tonight the rain is bad and Tayo is sleeping down the hall and Aaliyah is standing at the window, trying to remember who she was before she became a chess piece. And Jae-Hwan crosses the room and stands behind her close enough that she can feel the heat radiating off him through the fabric of his suit. He doesn't touch her. This is already a kind of touch. She has learned this about him in 11 days, that his proximity is its own language, that the space between his body and hers carries information, that he can communicate entire intentions through the precise management of distance. Right now the distance is 2 inches, and the information it carries makes her breathing change before she has consciously decided to let it. "You're still trying to find the exit," he says. She doesn't turn around. Old habit. He is quiet. The rain hits the glass. The city drowns. "I want to show you something," he says. "A different kind of game. I'm done playing your games. No, His voice is quiet, certain. "You're done playing my mother's games. Those were crude, ugly. They relied on fear." A pause. "What I'm offering is different." She turns. She faces him. In the low light, he looks like something carved, jaw sharp, eyes black and fathomless, the powerful line of his shoulders under the dark jacket. He is 35 years old, and he looks like a man who has never once been surprised. "Different how?" she says. He reaches up slowly, slowly enough that she could stop him, that she has time to decide, and places his palm over her eyes. The darkness is immediate and total. She doesn't move. Her heart is doing something complicated. The warmth of his palm radiates against her eyelids, and she is aware of every centimeter of contact, aware of the slight roughness of his skin, the steadiness of his hand, the fact that he is not gripping, not restraining, just covering, just making the world go dark. And the distinction matters enormously. He leans close to her ear. She can feel the warmth of his breath against the side of her neck, and it does something immediate to the muscles along her spine, a loosening that moves downward. "Close your eyes," he says, "or walk out right now." She stands in the dark behind his hand, and she makes the choice that will cost her everything. She doesn't move. She stays. She chooses the dark. The terrifying thing is that she doesn't choose it out of fear. She chooses it because something in her has been waiting for this, for someone whose control is precise enough to be worth surrendering to, whose attention is total enough to justify the surrender. She chooses the dark because for the first time she wants, actively wants, to find out what happens when she stops managing every variable. He removes his hand slowly. She opens her eyes. He is standing back from her now, watching with that black, unreadable gaze. And there is something in the corner of his mouth that is not quite a smile. "Good," he says. Just that. He turns and walks away. She stands at the window, and she feels the hook go in, clean, deep, past muscle and into something softer underneath. Over the next 3 days, she maps the rules of this new game through trial and error. She is not to ask where he goes during the day. She learns this when she asks once, and he simply looks at her for a long moment and then leaves the room. He doesn't come back for 6 hours. When he returns, he acts as though no time passed, and she understands. Questions are a withdrawal from an account she doesn't control. She is not to eat before he arrives in the evenings. She learns this when she orders delivery, and he walks in to find her at the kitchen island with takeout containers. He sits across from her, looks at the food, looks at her, says nothing. But that night in bed, he turns away, not in anger, just away. And the absence of his body heat against her back feels like standing in a room where the warmth has been deliberately cut. She lies awake for an hour, aware of exactly how many centimeters separate a shoulder blade from his, and she does not cross the distance, and neither does he, and this restraint on both sides is its own unbearable intimacy. She does not order delivery again. On the 4th night, she wakes at 2 in the morning to find him awake beside her, lying on his back, looking at the ceiling. She watches him in the dark, without letting him know she is watching. His profile in the low light from the city outside, the sharp jaw, the clean line of his throat, the rise and fall of his chest, has a quality she cannot name. Something stripped of the daytime precision, something that looks almost unguarded. She wants to touch his throat. She lies completely still and wants this for 7 minutes, and then she rolls toward him. And he turns his head and looks at her in the dark, and neither of them speaks. And she puts her hand flat on his chest over his heart and feels it beating under her palm, steady and slow. And he puts his hand over hers and holds it there, and they stay like that until she falls asleep. In the morning he does not reference it, neither does she. It goes into the ledger she keeps of things that happened between them that have no language yet. On the 6th night he covers her eyes before dinner. She is standing in the kitchen in her red dress, and he comes up behind her with a silk tie, dark navy, expensive, and he wraps it around her head and ties it at the back with the deliberate care of a man who practices deliberate care in everything. And she stands in the dark while he moves around her in the kitchen. She hears the refrigerator, the knife on the cutting board. She smells strawberry, then something savory, then the cold mineral clarity of white wine. He comes to stand in front of her. "Open your mouth," he says. She does. The obedience is immediate, and this immediacy surprises her. Not the instruction, but her body's response to it. The way it moves before her mind has processed the words, as though some part of her has already agreed to a contract her conscious mind hasn't finished. Reading, he places something on her tongue, small, slightly sweet, a delicate pressure that dissolves slowly. She cannot identify it, and the not knowing is exactly the point. He has removed her ability to anticipate, to prepare, to manage her own reaction. And what fills the space when anticipation used to be is a heightened sensitivity, every nerve ending recalibrated to maximum. He feeds her slowly. 20 minutes of small things placed on her tongue, his fingers occasionally grazing her lips in a way that could be deliberate or incidental, and the uncertainty is its own sensation. The blindfold means she cannot read his expression, and so she reads him through touch alone. The warmth of his proximity when he leans close, the change in air pressure when he moves away, the particular quality of his breath when he is watching her reaction. She is flushed by the time he removes the blindfold, slightly dizzy, not from the food. He sits across the island from her and watches her with that unreadable gaze and pours wine. "Who decides what you want?" he asks. She looks at him. Her lips are warm from his fingers. "What? Every moment of your adult life, someone has been deciding what you should want. What if you didn't have to do that work?" "That's a very elegant pitch for control," she says. "It's not control." He slides the wine toward her. "It's curation." She picks up the glass. She drinks. She does not answer, because she does not have an answer that doesn't betray how much she is already thinking about the next time he covers her eyes, about what he might place on her tongue, about the specific quality of not knowing. That night he comes to bed after she does, and she is lying on her side facing the window, and she hears him undress, the specific sounds of it, jacket, shirt, the particular quiet of a man moving with economy. And then the bed shifts with his weight, and he lies behind her, and he is close but not touching, and the proximity is its own conversation. She turns over. In the dark, they are face to face and close, and she can feel his breath against her mouth, and she is very aware of the heat of him, of the specific geography of the space between their bodies, of the fact that she is the one who turned over, who closed the distance, who made the first move. He reaches up and touches her face, not her eyes this time, just his hand against her cheek, warm and deliberate, his thumb tracing a line from her cheekbone to the corner of her mouth. She makes a sound she didn't plan to make, something small and involuntary that escapes before she can manage it. His eyes, even in the dark, are watching her. He leans in. The kiss is not what she expected, not the precision and control of the daytime version of him, not the deliberate curation. It is slower than that and less managed, and she feels in it something that has been pressing against the surface of him for 11 days, something that tastes like 11 days of restraint finally making contact with its object. She kisses him back, and her hand finds the back of his neck, and she pulls him closer, and something breaks open between them that has been building since the night he covered her eyes, or since before that, since the night she watched him walk out of detention and understood that she had freed something she did not yet know how to hold. The city outside does its city things. The rain continues. Neither of them notices. Afterward she lies in the dark, and he lies beside her, and the penthouse breathes its controlled climate around them, and she stares at the ceiling, and she feels the hook, deeper now, past the place she thought was the bottom, into something below that she has no word for yet. She does not sleep for a long time. On the 7th morning she finds the photograph. She is not searching. She puts his jacket on a hanger, and the photograph falls from the interior breast pocket and hits the floor face up. It is a photograph of her younger, a different city, her hair different, the tattoo not yet on her shoulder. She is standing outside a concert hall. She does not know the camera exists. The photograph was taken a very long time ago. Her hands are completely steady when she picks it up. She looks at it in the gray morning light. She puts it back in the pocket, hangs the jacket, closes the closet. She goes to the window. The hook is deeper than she knew. The game started long before he covered her eyes, long before she chose the dark, long before she thought she was making any choice at all. The question is not, did he plan this? The question is, does it change what she wants when she thinks about last night, about his mouth, about the specific sound of 11 days of restraint finally releasing? She stands at the window for a long time. She does not have an answer, but the city below moves and breathes, and the hook settles, and she understands that the answer she eventually finds is going to cost her something significant, and that she is going to pay it anyway. Chapter 2, Part 1. 7 days ago she found the photograph. She put it back. She said nothing. This is the thing about Aaliyah that Jae-Hwan either understands completely or not at all. She is not a woman who detonates. She is a woman who waits. She collects information the way other people collect debt, quietly and with compound interest, and she holds it until she knows exactly what it is worth and exactly when to spend it. The photograph stays in the jacket pocket. The jacket stays in the closet. She adds it to the ledger she keeps in the back of her mind. The running tally of things she knows that he doesn't know she knows, And she goes on. This is the first mistake. She thinks she is playing chess. She doesn't understand yet that he changed the game to something she has never played before. Something with no board and no pieces and no moves she can memorize in advance. She thinks she is being strategic. She thinks the blindfold is a tactic she can analyze from the outside. She doesn't understand yet that you cannot analyze something you are inside. Monday morning, the penthouse kitchen. He's already awake when she comes out. Unusual. He almost never surfaces before 9, and he is standing at the counter in a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to the elbows, and he is cooking. Actually cooking, not directing staff, not ordering delivery. Standing at the stove with a pan in his hand like a man. Who knows what he's doing there? She stops in the doorway. He doesn't look up. Sit down. She sits at the kitchen island. He slides a plate in front of her. Eggs, something green. Toast that's been done exactly right. He pours coffee without asking how she takes it. He has known how she takes it for weeks now. Since he started paying the kind of attention to her habits that she once paid to escape routes. She looks at the food. She looks at him. You cooked. Occasionally I do things that aren't weapons, he says, and sits across from her with his own coffee. She almost laughs. Almost. That might be the funniest thing you've ever said to me. Eat. She eats. The eggs are good. Better than good. The man can cook, which feels like information she wasn't supposed to have. Like finding a door in a wall you thought was solid. She files this too. They eat in silence for a while. The city below is starting its Monday noise. Traffic, construction, the distant machinery of a place that never stops producing. She watches him over the rim of her coffee cup, and he watches her back, and neither of them speaks. And the silence has texture to it, has weight. Like a conversation happening at a frequency she can almost hear. I need you at the Lim Foundation event Thursday night, he says finally. She sets down her cup. What kind of event? Dinner. 40 people. Old money and new money pretending they like each other. He pauses. I need you visible. The trial coverage was good. Your image is what the family needs right now. There it is. She almost relaxes into cynicism, into the familiar territory of being used. She knows this landscape. She knows how to move through it. What do you need me to do? She says. Nothing complicated. Stand beside me. Speak when spoken to. Be exactly what you are. And what am I? He looks at her for a moment with those black, unreadable eyes. The most interesting woman in the room, he says. You always are. She doesn't know what to do with that. She picks up her coffee again. Thursday, she says. Fine. He nods once and goes back to his coffee, and she stares at the window and tries to find the manipulation in what he just said, and she can feel the shape of it. But she can't find the edges, which is exactly the problem. Tuesday. He comes home at 6 with 3 shopping bags from a boutique she recognizes, the kind of place where the salespeople don't put prices on anything because if you have to ask, you're in the wrong zip code. He sets the bags on the bed. For Thursday, he says. She crosses her arms. I have things to wear. I know. He opens the first bag. He removes a dress, dark green, silk, structured at the top and fluid below, The kind of dress that makes choices about a woman's body for her in the best possible way. He lays it on the bed, then shoes, then a wrap, then a small clutch. She looks at the dress. She looks at him. "I'm not a doll," she says. "No," he agrees, "but you're going to look extraordinary in that dress, and you know it. And the point isn't that I'm dressing you. The point is that I know what works. The point is control." He turns to face her, and he's not angry. That's the thing. He's never angry anymore. The anger was the old version of him, the crude version his mother built. This version is something quieter and more precise. "The point," he says, "is that I paid attention. For months before any of this started, I paid attention to how you move, what you wear when you want to be powerful, what color makes your skin do that thing." He stops, gestures vaguely toward her. "That thing it does in the right light. I know what you look like when you feel like yourself. That dress makes you look like yourself." She stares at him. "Try it on," he says. Not an order, an invitation with the shape of an order. She picks up the dress and goes into the bathroom and tries it on. He is not wrong. She stands in front of the mirror, and the dress does exactly what he said it would do. And she looks at herself, and she looks extraordinary. And the fact that he knew this, the fact that he looked at her long enough and carefully enough to know exactly what would make her look extraordinary, does something to her chest that she refuses to name. She comes back out. He looks at her for a long moment without speaking. "Yes," he says finally, "just that." She goes back into the bathroom and takes the dress off and hangs it carefully. And when she comes back out, he is gone. And she sits on the edge of the bed and stares at the green dress on its hanger and tries to remember the last time anyone looked at her the way he just looked at her, with that total, unguarded recognition, like seeing something you've been looking for without knowing you were looking. She can't remember, maybe never. She calls her friend Yuna that night. Yuna, who she hasn't spoken to in 3 weeks. Yuna, who has called 7 times and texted 14, and who is probably 90% concerned and 10% furious. Yuna picks up on the first ring. "Aaliyah, oh my God, are you okay? Where have you been?" "I was about to. I'm fine." She is sitting on the bathroom floor of the penthouse master suite with the door locked, speaking quietly. "I'm fine. I just wanted to hear your voice." "You just wanted to, Aaliyah. It has been 3 weeks. 3 weeks. I called your office, and they said you hadn't been in, and I called your. I've been busy." Silence. Then, carefully, with him. "Yes, Aaliyah." Yuna's voice drops. "Is he hurting you?" She looks at the green dress hanging on the back of the bathroom door, where she put it while she changes. "No," she says, and it's true. He isn't hurting her. That's the thing she cannot explain to Yuna. The thing that has no language yet. That the problem isn't pain. The problem is its opposite. The problem is that she feels more awake in this penthouse than she has felt in years, and she cannot locate the exit from that feeling even when she looks for it. "I have to go," she says. "Aaliyah, I'll call you next week. I promise." She hangs up. She sits on the bathroom floor a little longer. She does not call the prosecutor, whose number she has been ignoring for days. She does not check the messages from her manager. She does not look at the calendar notification for the meeting she was supposed to have yesterday about her next performance contract. She looks at the dress. She goes to bed. Wednesday. He takes her to a private club she has never been to. Not the kind with velvet ropes and a DJ. The other kind. The kind that doesn't have a sign outside, where the car pulls into a garage and you take a private elevator, and the people inside are the kind of people whose names you know from newspapers, but never from introductions. They sit at a corner table. He orders for her without asking. The food is extraordinary. He keeps his hand on the table near hers. Not touching, just near. Close enough that the proximity is its own sensation. They talk, not about anything that matters. About art, about a film she mentioned once in passing that he apparently remembered and went and watched. About the architecture of the building therein. About a piece of music playing softly from somewhere she can't identify. He is different in public than she expected. Not cold, not performative, genuinely present in a way that keeps catching her off guard. At one point she says something funny, genuinely funny. A dry observation about the couple 3 tables over who are clearly conducting an affair and doing it badly, and he laughs. Actually laughs. It transforms his face completely. The calculation dropping away for a second, and underneath it's something younger and less armored. She stares. He catches her staring, and the laugh fades, and he looks at her with something in his eyes. She can't read. She looks away first. On the drive home, she watches the city through the window, and she is aware of his hand, resting on the seat between them, not touching her, just there. And she is aware of the precise distance between that hand and her leg, and she is aware that she is aware of it, which is its own revelation. Thursday. The Lim Foundation dinner. She wears the green dress. She stands beside him in a room full of Seoul's most powerful and most dangerous people, and she is, without question, the most interesting woman in the room. And she knows it. And he knows she knows it. And the evening moves around them like a current. He doesn't leave her side, not once. This is different from the old performances, the ones his mother choreographed, where she was prop arranged in a specific position and left there. He stays close. He leans in when she speaks, which makes the person she's speaking to lean into, which elevates everything she says by the physics of his attention. Chapter 2, Part 2. When someone tries to engage him in a separate conversation, he finds a way to pull Aaliyah into it. Not as decoration, but as a participant. 2 hours and she realizes she is not performing. She is actually here, actually present, actually engaged with these people in this room because he has been steadily, subtly, architecturally creating the conditions for her to be engaged. This terrifies her in a way she cannot immediately explain. She excuses herself, finds the bathroom, stands in front of the mirror with her hands on the cold marble of the sink, and looks at herself in the green dress that he chose, and she looks extraordinary, and she feels extraordinary. And she doesn't know anymore whether what she feels is her or whether it's what he constructed. She thinks about the photograph in the pocket. She goes back out. The remainder of the evening passes in a kind of controlled unreality. She smiles when she should smile and speaks when she should speak, And when his hand briefly touches the small of her back to guide her through a crowd, she does not move away from it, and later she will not be able to say whether she moved into it or whether that was just the physics of the moment. In the car on the way home, he is quiet. She is quiet. The city runs past the windows, neon and rain. "You were perfect," he says. "I was myself," she says. "Yes," he says. She looks at him. That's the whole game, isn't it? Make me think being myself is the same as being what you need. He turns to look at her, and his face in the dark of the car is unreadable. The jaw sharp, the eyes black, and he says, "Have you considered that both things might be true at the same time?" She turns back to the window. She doesn't answer. Outside, Seoul swallows the rain, and the rain falls anyway. Friday morning, she doesn't check her messages from the prosecutor. She tells herself she'll do it tomorrow. Saturday, she chooses her own dress for the first time in 2 weeks. Puts on something she bought herself, something he didn't select, and she stands in front of the mirror, and she looks good, but not extraordinary, and she stares at the reflection for a long time before she goes and takes the green dress off its hanger and puts it on instead. She doesn't tell herself anything about this. She just does it and goes into the kitchen, and he is there, and he looks at her and nods once. That minimal acknowledgement that has started to feel like applause. She has stopped calling Yuna back. She has rescheduled the prosecutor twice. She will reschedule him again Monday. She tells herself there is no urgency. The situation is stable. She has time. She has stopped checking in on Tayo's school schedule, which son his remnant staff still manages. She tells herself she's giving him stability, routine, the absence of adult drama. She tells herself this is parenting. She is being processed. Slowly, systematically, with extraordinary precision, she is being processed. Not through fear or threat, but through something more sophisticated, something that works on the part of her that wants to be seen, that has always wanted to be seen by someone capable of actually seeing her, and Jae-Hwan sees her with the specificity of a man who studied her long before she knew. She was being studied. She knows this. She knows the mechanism. She can feel it working on her the way you can feel a current in water even when the surface looks still. She stays in the current anyway. This is the second mistake. Then comes the night of the private room. It is 3 weeks after the night he covered her eyes. He says they are going out. Dress. He specifies, without telling her which dress, which means the green one, which she already knows. The car takes them to a part of the city she hasn't been to. Older architecture, narrower streets. The buildings here don't have signs either. They take stairs, not an elevator, down one level to a door that requires a key he carries. Inside, a room, intimate, low-lit, with a table set for two and music coming from speakers she can't see, slow, synthesized, the kind of music that sounds like the inside of a decision you've already made. The room is beautiful. She notes this, and notes also that one wall is different from the others. Its surface has a quality that takes her a moment to identify. One-way glass? She stops moving. He's already at the table, pulling out her chair with that precise courtesy that she still, after everything, finds disarming. Jae-Hwan, Sit down, Aaliyah. What is behind that wall? He looks at it, then at her. Nothing that touches you. Nobody who knows your name. That isn't what I asked. I know. He holds the chair. He waits. She sits. She hates herself a little for sitting, for the way his held chair is still somehow compelling even now, even here, with one-way glass in the wall like an accusation. She sits and she picks up the wine that has already been poured and she drinks. The evening continues. The food is extraordinary, of course, because everything in his world is extraordinary. He does not do anything by half measures. This she has understood about him. The same absolutism that made him a brutal enforcer makes him a devastating host. He talks to her across the table like the wall isn't there, and she talks back, because what else is there to do? And the music plays, and the food comes and goes, and she is hyper-aware of the glass, and hyper-aware of him, and hyper-aware of herself being hyper-aware. The feedback loop building pressure behind her sternum. After the main course, he gets up and comes around the table and stands behind her chair. He places his hands on her shoulders. She goes very still. Look at the wall, he says quietly. No. Look at it. She looks. The glass reflects the room, the table, the candles, herself, him standing behind her. In the reflection she sees what she looks like. The green dress, the purple hair, the spiral tattoo, his hands on her shoulders, his face above hers, composed and certain. And she sees what they look like together. She looks extraordinary. She knows this about herself intellectually, has always known it, but seeing it the way someone behind that glass might see it, it does something different. It recontextualizes. It makes her understand, in a way she has been avoiding understanding, what she is to him in this moment. Not a partner, not an equal, a thing to be displayed, a possession that reflects well. She should stand up. She knows this. Every part of her that fought and schemed and organized a media campaign to save him from prison, every part of her that looked his mother in the eye and played the longer game, all of that says stand up. She doesn't stand up. His hands move from her shoulders to the back of her neck. A light touch, a question rather than a statement. And she is looking at herself in the glass, and she hates how much she wants to stay in his hands. And she hates how this hatred exists simultaneously with the wanting, and she cannot find the seam between the two. Who are you right now? He says, very quietly, close to her ear. And that is the question. That is exactly the question. She stares at her own reflection, and she genuinely does not know. She knows who she was before Seoul. She knows who she was during the months of the marriage performance, the immigration crisis, the SWAT leverage, and the late-night deals. She knows who she was 3 weeks ago when she thought she won. She does not know who this woman in the green dress is. In her reflection, her eyes are bright and frightened and something else. Something that looks disturbingly like desire. Not for him, or not only for him, but for the feeling of being so completely seen that you stop being responsible for seeing yourself. She stands up. She does it slowly and deliberately, and she puts her hands over his and removes them from her neck with the same care he uses when he places things in her mouth during those kitchen experiments. And she turns to face him. "I need to go home," she says. "We're not finished." "Yes, we are." Her voice is level. "We're done for tonight." He looks at her for a long moment with those black eyes, and she cannot read him, has never been able to read him. And this is both the thing she finds most compelling and most maddening about him. Then he nods once. The car takes them home. He doesn't touch her in the car, doesn't speak. At the penthouse, she goes into the bathroom and she runs the water. And she sits on the edge of the bathtub and she breathes. In through the nose, out through the mouth. The way you breathe when you are trying to locate yourself in your own body. She picks up her phone. There are 6 missed calls from the prosecutor. 2 from Yuna, 1 from Tayo's school that she doesn't recognize. She stares at the calls. She thinks about calling back. She thinks about the photograph in the jacket pocket. She thinks about standing at the one-way glass and not knowing her own face. Then she hears him on the other side of the bathroom door. His footsteps, his voice, quiet, on the phone, speaking in the low, rapid Korean he uses for business. She cannot make out the words. She puts her phone down. She does not call back. She turns off the bathroom light and goes to bed, and in the morning she tells herself she will handle the prosecutor. She will call Yuna. She will review Tayo's school schedule. She will do all of the things she has been not doing for 3 weeks. In the morning, he places an orange in front of her, peeled, already separated into sections, arranged on a plate with a precision that is almost architectural. He sits across from her. He doesn't say anything. He just watches her eat it. She eats every section. She does not call anyone. The loop tightens. She does not feel it tightening. This is exactly the point. That night she looks for the jacket in the closet. It isn't there. Chapter 3, Part 1. The jacket is gone. She checks twice. She moves hangers aside with careful hands, checks the back of the closet, checks the secondary closet in the hallway, checks the garment rack near the entrance, where his staff sometimes hangs things that come back from the dry cleaner. The jacket is not in any of these places. She does not ask him about it. This is the third mistake. Not the asking, the not asking. Because the not asking means she has already internalized one of his rules so completely that she enforces it herself, without his presence, without his instruction, without even the memory of being told. The rule was never stated. It exists now purely in her behavior. She has become, in some precise and technical sense, self-regulating. She does not know this yet. She will. 4 weeks in. Seoul in late autumn has a particular quality to its cold, sharp, and metallic, the kind that gets into your lungs and stays. She has been in this penthouse long enough now that the outside cold feels abstract, theoretical, something that happens to other people in other cities. The penthouse maintains its own climate, his climate, controlled temperature, controlled light, controlled sound, the music he chooses in the evenings, the silence he maintains in the mornings, the specific frequency of his attention that she has become so calibrated to, that its absence is now louder than its presence. He is gone for 2 days. Business, he says, without elaboration. She feels the penthouse change the moment the elevator closes behind him. It gets larger, emptier. She walks through the rooms and they feel theoretical without him in them, like a stage set between performances. She calls Yuna on the first day. Yuna answers with a voice that has given up masking its worry. Aaliyah, are you okay? You sound, I'm fine. He's away. I just wanted to talk. Talk about what? She sits on the floor of the living room with her back against the couch, something she never does when he is home, and looks at the rain hitting the window. Do you think it's possible to want something that's bad for you so completely that the wanting and the badness become impossible to separate? Like you can't remove one without removing the other. Aaliyah, are we still talking about him? I don't know who else would be talking about. Come stay with me, Yuna says, while he's away. Just come over. Remind yourself what your life looks like when it's yours. Maybe, she says. She doesn't go. On the second day, she wanders into his study, not searching, just present, existing in a space that is entirely his desk. His books arranged with characteristic precision, organized by subject, spines facing exactly the same direction. On the desk, in a frame she has never seen before, a photograph, not the one from the jacket, a different one. She picks it up. It is Tae Dasho, her son. He's maybe 4 years old, which means Jae-Hwan has had this photograph for at least 3 years, predating her rival in Seoul by years. Tayo is laughing at something outside the frame. The black vein on his arm visible, where his sleeve is pushed up, looking entirely like a child and entirely unaware of being watched. She sets the photograph down. Her hands are steady. She goes back to the living room and she sits and she runs the timeline. He knew about Tayo before she arrived. He knew about her voice. The photograph of her in the city before Seoul. 3 years of watching. 3 years of preparation. The charity evening. The immigration crisis. The fictions he built and dismantled and rebuilt until she couldn't see the architecture anymore. And now this, the blindfold and the green dress and the one-way glass and the peeled orange and the jacket that disappeared. And the nights, the specific geography of the nights, his hands, his mouth, the involuntary testimony of his heartbeat under her palm. She has not been navigating a situation. She has been inside a design. He comes home that evening, a day early, which violates his own pattern and is therefore itself a message. He comes through the door, and she is sitting on the couch, and she is very calm in the way that a person is calm when they have had 6 hours to arrive somewhere difficult and have arrived there fully. He looks at her. He reads her immediately. She sees him read her, sees the slight adjustment in his posture. You went into the study, he says. The frame is new, she says. He sets down his jacket and crosses the room and sits in the chair across from her and waits. How long? She says. Does it matter? How long, Jae-Hwan? He is quiet. Outside the city does what it does. Indifferent. Long enough, he says. That's not an answer. It's the only accurate one. He leans forward, elbows on his knees. Before you came here, you were already the answer to a problem I'd been solving for years. I needed someone who could exist in my world without breaking and without becoming it. Someone whose particular kind of strength was compatible. You engineered a crisis to bring me here. Yes, you ruined my life. Your life before this was survivable, not lived. She stares at him. You don't get to decide that. I know. The flatness of it, the absence of defense, tells her something. I know I don't get to decide it. I decided it anyway. She stands up. I need to think, she says. Aaliyah, don't. Her hand up. I need space and you need to give it to me. He gives it to her. She goes to the bedroom and closes the door and sits on the edge of the bed and breathes. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Here is the truth she is sitting with. She is not surprised. This is the thing that frightens her most. She has run the revelation through her body like a diagnostic, and what she finds is not shock, not clean betrayal, not the clear moral outrage this situation objectively warrants. What she finds is something murkier. She knew the nature of the man she was dealing with. She knew from the night he covered her eyes. She knew from the green dress. She knew from the peeled orange. She knew from the way his heartbeat sped up under her hand, and the way he said her name in the dark. The private version, the one only used when no one is watching. She stayed anyway. She picks up her phone. She calls the prosecutor. He answers on the second ring with the voice of a man who has been waiting. Mrs. Dok Choi. I was beginning to think you'd made other arrangements. I need to see you tomorrow. Early. I'll make myself available. A pause. There are developments you should know about before we meet. Something in his voice. She grips the phone. What developments? Not on the phone. A breath, Mrs. Choi. How much do you actually know about your husband's activities over the past 3 weeks? She looks at the closed bedroom door. Behind it, somewhere in the penthouse, Jae-Hwan is sitting in his chair completely still. She knows this about him. When he is thinking, he goes absolutely still. She can feel his stillness through the door, like a change in atmospheric pressure. Tell me, she says. 3 men were found in the Han River this morning, the prosecutor says. Business associates of your husband's primary competitor. The timing and method are consistent with Mrs. Choi. Your husband has been operational for the past 3 weeks. Not just present, operational. And the evidence places him at significant personal risk. And anyone in proximity, silence on her end. We have evidence, the prosecutor says quietly, and you are currently the most valuable and most vulnerable piece on this board. Are you still willing to cooperate? Or has your situation changed? She stares at the closed door. Through it, through the walls, through the architecture of this penthouse that he designed and she moved into voluntarily. Through all of it, she can feel him. My situation has changed, she says. I'll see you tomorrow. She hangs up. 3 men in the Han River. She thinks about the night of the private room, the one-way glass, his hands on her shoulders. Who are you right now? She thinks about where he was that night before he came to collect her. She thinks about the jacket that disappeared and whether it disappeared in the same circumstances as whatever evidence was on it. She thinks about his hands in the dark of the bedroom, the specific warmth of them, the way they felt against her skin, and she thinks about what those same hands are capable of in daylight, and what the distance is between those two truths, and whether that distance is crossable. She goes to the bathroom, locks the door, turns on the shower, sits on the cold tile floor with her back against the wall. She cries. cries, not performance crying. The other kind, from below strategy, from the place where you keep the things you cannot monetize or trade. She cries because she is on a bathroom floor in a penthouse she walked into voluntarily. And there are 3 men in the Han River, and she ate every section of the orange, and she has not spoken to her son in 9 days, and she cannot find the seam between what she wanted and what was done to her. She cannot find it because she has been living inside the design for weeks, and the design has become the architecture of her wanting, and she doesn't know anymore where the walls are. She cries until she can't. Then she washes her face, looks in the mirror for a long time. The dark brown skin, the purple hair, the spiral tattoo, the eyes that are bright and wrecked and more awake than she has felt in months. She looks at herself and she tries to find the woman who ran a media campaign and negotiated with prosecutors and took apart a criminal matriarch piece by piece. She is in there somewhere, under for weeks of green silk and dark kitchens, and his hands in her hair, in the specific way he touches her hair when he thinks she's almost asleep. She goes out of the bathroom. He is sitting on the edge of the bed. He has been there for however long she was in the bathroom waiting, still in his suit jacket, tie loosened, and he looks at her when she comes out with an expression she has never seen on his face. Not calculation, not precision, something raw that he has not yet learned to hide quickly enough. She stops. "You were crying," he says. Observation, not a question. "Aaliyah, tell me about the last 3 weeks. All of it." Something moves in his face. "You've spoken to someone. Tell me." He is quiet. The city presses against the glass, cold and relentless. "Sit down," he says. "No." He looks at her. He looks at the floor. He looks at his hands, and she looks at his hands too. She knows these hands. She knows them in the dark. The specific warmth, the weight, the deliberate care they apply to her, the way they learn the geography of her in increments, methodically, like a man who intends to know something completely. She knows what these hands feel like against her skin. She looks at them and she knows what else they are capable of. She takes one step backward. His eyes come up to hers. "Aaliyah," he says, and for the first time she hears something in his voice that is not calculation. The sound of a man watching something he cannot afford to lose moving toward the door, and not knowing how to be the kind of man who asks it to stay, without it being another form of control. "I'm going to sleep in Tayo's room tonight," she says. He doesn't stop her. She goes down the hall to her son's room and gets into the small bed that smells like child, and she stares at the ceiling, and she thinks about what the prosecutor said, and she thinks about 3 men in the Han River, and she thinks about who are you right now, and she thinks about his hands, and the 2 different things they are. She doesn't sleep. At 3 in the morning she gets up, goes to the window. The city is quiet at 3 in the morning in a way it never is at any other hour. She presses her forehead against the cold glass, and she stands there a long time. At the far end of the penthouse, light under the study door. He is awake. Of course he is. She has been learning the map of his sleeplessness, the hours he does not sleep, which are more than she initially thought, and what he does in those hours, which is mostly sit in the dark with his particular quality of stillness and think. She has wondered before what he thinks about in those hours. She is not sure she wants to know anymore. She is not sure the knowing would help. She presses her forehead against the glass. Then she goes back to the small bed and she lies down and she puts her hand on the space beside her. The empty space where in the other bedroom there would be his warmth, his weight, the particular geography of him that she has memorized without intending to. And she lies with her hand on that empty space and she breathes. Her phone lights up on the nightstand. A message, unknown number, 4 words. You are not safe. She stares at it. The city below is dark and still. The light is still under the study door. Then she doesn't plan this. It happens before she has decided to let it happen. She gets up. She walks down the hall. She stands in front of the study door for a moment. She opens it. He is at the desk. He looks up immediately. He always looks up immediately, she has noticed, as though he is never fully absorbed in anything, always keeping one part of his attention at the door. His jacket is off. His shirt is open at the collar. There are papers on the desk he does not move to cover. He looks at her in the doorway in Tayo's room clothes, soft, unguarded, not the green dress, not the red dress, just her. And something happens in his face that is very quick and very undefended and gone before she can name it. She walks to the desk. She puts her phone on it face up. You are not safe. He reads it. He looks at it for slightly longer than reading for words requires. Who sent it? She says. Someone who wants you frightened. I am frightened. That doesn't answer the question. He looks up at her. In the study light with his shirt open at the collar, he looks like something stripped of protective coating. Still powerful, still precise, but with the surface layer gone, operating in open air. She comes around the desk. She does this without entirely deciding to. Her body moving toward him the way it has learned to move in the past for weeks. The calibration running below the level of conscious choice. She stands beside his chair and she looks down at him. And he looks up at her and neither of them speaks. Then she sits on the edge of the desk beside him, close, and she looks at the papers she cannot read and the city through the window, and she says, "Show me what you're working on." He is still for a moment. Then he turns the papers toward her. They sit like that for a long time. She reads what she can understand. He explains what she can't. The city outside slowly, incrementally, begins to lighten. The gray pre-dawn that comes before the gold. The city's version of breathing before it starts its machinery again. At some point his hand finds hers on the desk. Not a dramatic gesture, just his hand over hers. The familiar warmth of it, the specific weight. She looks at their hands. She thinks about the 4 words on her phone. She thinks about 3 men in the Han River. She thinks about his heartbeat under her palm on the first night she put her hand on his chest, and how it was slow and steady, and how the second time it was faster, and how this differential is the most honest thing she has learned about him. She turns her hand over under his. She laces her fingers through his. He looks at their hands. He looks at her. "Tell me what you're not telling me," she says. He is quiet for a long time. The city gets incrementally lighter. "The people who sent that message," he says finally. They are not interested in you specifically. They are interested in what you represent to me. A pause. His thumb moves along the inside of her wrist, slow, and she feels it move through her like a current. The calculation changed midway through what I was doing. I didn't account for. He stops. For what? She says. For this. He looks at their hands. For the fact that what I built you into is also what Another stop. The word costs him something. Is also what I need, which is not the same as wanting. I have wanted many things. This is not the same category. She looks at him for a long time. At the sharp jaw, and the black eyes, and the open collar, and the specific quality of a man who is telling the truth without knowing how to dress it properly, because he has never needed to before. You are terrifying, she says. I know, he says, and I am sitting in your study at 4 a.m. holding your hand. I know that too. She looks at the city getting light. She thinks about Tayo's school schedule she stopped tracking. She thinks about Yuna she stopped calling. She thinks about the prosecutor waiting for a meeting she hasn't rescheduled. She thinks about all the versions of herself that existed before she walked into this penthouse, and she tries to find them, to locate them in the woman sitting on the edge of this desk with her fingers laced through a dangerous man's fingers at 4 a.m. They are in there, all of them. She can feel them. She squeezes his hand once, then she lets go. I'm going back to bed, she says. He doesn't stop her. She goes back to Tayo's room. She gets into the small bed. She puts her hand on the empty space beside her. She closes her eyes. At the far end of the penthouse, the study light stays on. She sleeps for the first time in 2 days. When she wakes, the sun is fully up and Seoul is fully operational, and on her phone there is a new message from the unknown number, different from last night's, different sender. The deal your husband made to walk out of detention. You don't know what he gave up. Ask him what he traded. Ask him about the boy. She reads it once. She reads it again. She looks at the word boy for a long time. She gets up. She goes to the kitchen. She makes coffee with steady hands. She pours to cups. She carries them to the study. He is still there, or back. She cannot tell if he slept. He looks up when she enters, and she sets a cup on the desk in front of him, and she sits in the chair across from him, and she wraps both hands around her own cup, and she looks at him. Tell me about the boy, she says. Something happens in his face that she has never seen before. She waits. Outside Seoul is cold and bright and entirely indifferent, and the coffee is warm in her hands, and the word boy sits between them on the desk like a third object, and she waits, because she is a woman who knows how to wait, and because whatever comes out of his mouth next is going to change the shape of everything after, and she needs to be completely still when it does. He opens his mouth. He closes it. He looks at his hands. Those hands she knows in the dark. Those hands that are two different things. And then he looks at her with something in his black eyes that is not calculation or precision or the managed revelation of a man who controls his disclosures. It is the look of a man who has run out of architecture. And if you felt your chest tighten at that last line, if this story got into you and stayed, then drop a comment right now and tell me, do you think he is going to tell her the truth? Has he ever told anyone the full truth about anything? Share this with someone who needs a story that doesn't give them easy answers. Someone who will be in the comments arguing about Jae-Hwan at midnight. Subscribe right now because episode 13 picks up in exactly this moment. In exactly this silence. And what he says next will make everything that came before it look like the introduction. The Boy She Waits. Chapter 4, Part 1. He says, Tayo is not only your son. The words land in the room like something dropped from a height. She feels them hit, not in her chest, lower than that, in the place where the body keeps its most protected things, the place below strategy and below calculation and below all the architecture she has built in for weeks of learning to survive in his gravity. She sets down her coffee cup. She does this carefully. She does not trust her hands right now, and she does not want him to know she does not trust her hands right now, because that is information she cannot afford to give him in this specific moment. Say that again, she says. Tayo. He looks at her steadily. The calculation is gone from his face. What remains is something she has seen only in fragments before. In the dark of the bedroom, in the study for in the morning, in the specific quality of his stillness, when she is almost asleep and he thinks she cannot read him. It is the face underneath the face. He is also mine. The room is very quiet. So outside does its morning things, traffic building, construction somewhere distant, the machinery of a city that does not stop for revelations delivered over coffee in penthouses. She is aware of all of this peripherally, the way you are aware of background noise when the foreground is consuming everything. That's not possible, she says. Her voice is level. She is proud of her voice. 7 years ago, he says, before your marriage, before Seoul, there was a period of 3 months when you were in the city. You were performing. Your manager at the time arranged a dinner with a group of investors. He pauses. I was at that dinner. She stares at him. You don't remember me, he says. I know. I was not the person I am now. Or rather, I was this person, but not yet visible as this person. You were. He stops, chooses. You were extraordinary. You sang after dinner. I had not planned to stay for that part of the evening. She can feel her heartbeat in her hands, in her throat. You're telling me that Tayo, the timing is consistent. I had documentation verified 18 months ago. He holds her gaze. This is what I gave the prosecutor in exchange for my release. Not evidence against a competitor. Information about Tayo's parentage. Information that could be used to establish a legal claim, which the prosecutor intends to use as leverage over both of us. The silence that follows is different from all the other silences in all the rooms of this penthouse. It has a specific gravity. This silence, it presses against her skin. She thinks about Tayo, 7 years old, black hair and dark eyes, and the black vein running down his arm that the doctors have never fully explained. That she has been told is a birthmark, a vascular anomaly, nothing significant. She thinks about the framed photograph on his desk, the child laughing, unaware of being watched. She thinks about the way Jae-Hwan sometimes looks at Tayo, and she has always read that look as the look of a man performing paternal interest for the sake of the marriage. She understands now that she was reading it wrong. 7 years, she says. Yes, you knew for 18 months. Yes, you built this entire. She stops. She breathes. In through the nose, out through the mouth. You built this entire structure. The crisis, the marriage, the design. Knowing changed the urgency of the design. He says, not its nature. The nature was already. He stops. He looks at his hands again. The nature was already what it was. She stands up. She walks to the window. Seoul is bright and cold, and she presses her palm flat against the glass, and the cold of it moves up through her hand and into her arm, and she stands there with her palm on the cold glass, and she breathes. Behind her, she can feel him not moving. He has gone completely still, the total rested stillness of a man who has released every variable he was controlling and is now in the condition he is least equipped for. Waiting. Without architecture, without the ability to engineer the outcome. She turns around. He is watching her from the desk with those black eyes, and the face underneath the face fully exposed now. Nothing between her and whatever is actually happening inside him. And she looks at him and she sees it. The specific quality of a man who has spent 3 years building a structure around something he could not name and has just named it in the worst possible way, at the worst possible time, in the worst possible circumstances. She crosses the room. She stands in front of him. He looks up at her. She puts her hand on his face, her palm against his jaw. The familiar roughness of his stubble, the specific warmth of him, and she holds it there. I need you to understand what you have done, she says. Her voice is very quiet. Not the design, not the engineering. What you have actually done to me, to yourself, to a 7-year-old child who has a black vein on his arm that nobody has ever been able to explain, and who laughs with his whole body when something is funny. His jaw is very tight under her palm. Do you understand it? She says. Yes, he says. And the word is different from all the other yeses she has heard from him. Not precise, not managed, not the affirmative of a man confirming a tactical position. It is a word that costs something significant. She can feel the cost of it in the tension of his jaw under her hand. All right, she says. She removes her hand. She steps back. She picks up her coffee cup from the desk. She drinks what is left of it, which is cold now. Here is what happens next, she says. I'm going to call the prosecutor. I'm going to renegotiate what you gave him, because what you gave him is not his to hold over either of us. That information belongs to me, and you should have asked me before you traded it. I'm going to establish terms under which he returns it, and those terms are going to cost him something he values. She sets down the cup. Then I'm going to call Tayo's school, and I'm going to arrange to have him here this weekend. Not for the performance of family, because he is my son, and I have not seen him in 9 days, and I'm done allowing that. Jae-Hwan is watching her. Then she says, you and I are going to have a real conversation about what this is, about what the boy means, about what you need from me that isn't curation, and isn't design, and isn't the green dress, about what I need from you that isn't architecture. She holds his gaze. Because I am not leaving, I want to be clear about that. I have looked at every exit in this building, and I know where they all are, and I'm choosing not to use them. But I am also not staying in the design. I am staying in something real, or I am not staying. He is very still. Do you understand the difference? She says. Yes, he says. The same costly word. I understand the difference. Good. She picks up her phone. I'm going to shower. Then I'm going to make calls. I need you not to be in the kitchen when I do that. He nods once. He stands. He picks up his jacket from the back of the chair. He stops at the study door. He turns. The dinner, he says, 7 years ago, after you sang. He pauses. The pause has the quality of a man deciding whether to say something he has not said before. I stayed after everyone else left. You were talking to your manager by the door, and I stood across the room, and I watched you for 20 minutes before I left. You were laughing at something he said. You had this. He stops. He makes a gesture that is wholly unlike him. Imprecise, almost helpless, the gesture of a man trying to describe something that doesn't have a technical vocabulary. This quality when you laugh, like everything you are, isn't it? I walked out of that building and I could not. He stops. I could not stop thinking about it, he says. I could not stop thinking about you. And I am not a man who cannot stop thinking. I stop thinking about things. That is a skill I have. I could not apply it. She looks at him across the study. That's the most human thing you've ever said to me, she says. Something moves across his face, almost a smile. The rare kind. He goes. She stands in the study for a moment after he leaves. She looks at his desk, the papers, the framed photograph of Tayo laughing, the coffee cup with her lipstick on the rim that she left there. She looks at the window and the bright, cold city. She picks up her phone. She calls the prosecutor first. He answers immediately. Mrs. Choi. The information my husband provided regarding Tayo's parentage, she says. You're going to return it. All documentation, all copies. In exchange, I'm going to give you something considerably more valuable. Full verified records of 3 transactions between your office and my husband's primary competitor that you have been trying to keep out of the official record for 14 months. A silence. How did you? I have been living in this penthouse for weeks, she says. I have been paying attention. Do we have an agreement? Another silence. Longer. I'll need 48 hours too. You'll need 24, she says. And I'll need confirmation of document destruction, not return. There is no version of this where that information exists outside this family. She hangs up. She stands at the window and she breathes. In through the nose, out through the mouth. She thinks about the word family and how it sits in her chest differently than it did for weeks ago. Heavier, more complicated, with more rooms in it than she initially thought. She calls Yuna. Yuna answers with the voice of a woman who has been waiting. Aaliyah. I know. Aaliyah says, I know. I need you to listen to me for about 10 minutes, and then I need you to tell me what you actually think, not what you think I need to hear. Okay, Yuna says. Her voice has shifted, the worry setting aside, the listening beginning. This is why Aaliyah has been friends with Yuna for 11 years. She knows how to shift. Aaliyah talks for 10 minutes. She does not tell Yuna everything. There are things she cannot tell anyone yet. Things that need to stay inside the walls of this penthouse until she knows what to do with them. But she tells Yuna enough. She tells her about the design, and what she knows about it, and what she chose anyway, and why she is choosing to stay, and what she is requiring in exchange for that choice. Yuna listens. When Aaliyah stops, she is quiet for a moment. He sounds, Yuna says carefully, like the most dangerous person you have ever been involved with. Yes, Aaliyah says, and you are staying. Yes, because Aaliyah looks at the framed photograph of Tayo on the desk. Because he is the only person who has ever looked at me long enough to actually see what's there. And because what he does with what he sees is, she stops. It's wrong. A lot of it is wrong. And I'm going to spend a significant amount of energy making it less wrong. That's not a reason to stay, Yuna says. That's a project. I know. Aaliyah says, I've always worked better with a project. Yuna makes a sound that is exasperated and fond in equal measure. Call me every week, she says. Non-negotiable. Every week, Aaliyah agrees. She hangs up. She calls Tayo's school and arranges for him to come to the penthouse on Saturday. The woman on the phone is professionally warm and personally curious, and Aaliyah gives her nothing to be curious about and hangs up after 90 seconds. Then she showers. The shower is long and very hot, and she stands under the water, and she lets the past for weeks move through her, not analyzing, not categorizing, just letting it move. The blindfold, and the kitchen, and the green dress, and the one-way glass, and the nights, and his hands, and the coffee at 4 in the morning, and the framed photograph, and the black vein on Tayo's arm, and the word family with its new rooms. Chapter 4, Part 2. She lets it all move through her. When she comes out, she dresses in her own clothes. Not the red dress, not the green dress. Something she bought herself before any of this. Something that fits the way clothes fit when you chose them for yourself. She looks in the mirror. She looks like herself. Not the curated version. Not the displayed version. The actual version. Bright-eyed and slightly wrecked and more decided than she has felt in months. She goes to the kitchen. He is not there. He has done what she asked. The kitchen is empty, and there is fresh coffee in the pot. He made it before he left the room, which is such a precisely in gesture that she almost laughs. She pours a cup. She stands at the kitchen window and drinks it and looks at the city. After a while, she hears him in the hallway. He stops at the kitchen doorway. She doesn't turn around, but she can see his reflection in the window glass, the dark suit, the short-cropped black hair, the powerful line of him in the doorway. The prosecutor will confirm within 24 hours, she says. I heard, he says, meaning he was in the hallway, meaning he listened. She files this, not as a violation, because in this penthouse the walls have always been permeable, and they both know it, but as information about what he needed to hear. Tayo comes Saturday, she says. All right. And tonight, she says, we have that real conversation. All right, he says again. She turns around. She faces him across the kitchen, and the morning light is coming through the windows, and it hits him differently in morning light than in the controlled light of the penthouse evenings. More plainly, less managed. The angles of his face visible as just angles, not architecture. He looks at her in her own clothes with her coffee cup and her decided expression. And something in his face does the thing it does. Sometimes the thing she doesn't have a name for yet. The thing that lives below the calculation and surfaces briefly and is gone. She holds out her hand. He looks at it. He crosses the kitchen. He takes her hand. She laces her fingers through his, the way she did in the study at 4 in the morning. The familiar gesture, but different now in daylight, in her own clothes, with the prosecutor handled and Una called and Tayo coming Saturday. They stand at the kitchen window and they look at the city together. After a while he says, the laugh at the dinner 7 years ago. What about it? It's the same, he says. It hasn't changed. In 7 years. He pauses. I have been watching for it to change. She looks at the city. She feels the warmth of his hand. She thinks about a woman in a different city 7 years ago who laughed with her whole body at something her manager said, unaware that across the room a man was watching and would spend the next 7 years building a structure around the memory of it. She thinks about whether that woman would recognize this version of herself. She thinks the answer is maybe, if she looked long enough, in the right light. It won't change, she says. That's not something that changes. I know, he says. I know that now. They stand at the window. The city is bright and cold, and Seoul is doing what Seoul does. Moving, building, transacting, generating, indifferent. Below them in the private garage a black car is parked that she knows about now, that he told her about last night in the study, that belongs to people who are waiting for a moment she has decided not to give them. Her phone is on the counter. On the screen, visible to both of them, a new notification. Not the prosecutor, not Una. A number she has never seen. Different from all the previous unknown numbers. One word. Soon. She looks at it. She looks at it for long enough that he sees it too. She feels his hand tighten on hers. Not fear, not in the ordinary sense, but the particular alertness of a man who has just received information that changes the timeline. She picks up the phone with her free hand. She reads the word again. She types back, "Whenever you're ready." She puts the phone down. He looks at her. "You just told them we're not afraid," she says, which is the only language they understand and the only position from which anything gets negotiated. He is quiet for a moment, looking at her in the morning light with his hand in hers, and the words soon on her phone screen, and Tayo coming Saturday, and the prosecutor on a 24-hour clock, and the city indifferent below them. He looks at her with the face underneath the face, fully exposed, nothing managed. "You are not what I designed," he says. "No," she agrees. "I'm what you found." Something breaks open in his expression, not dramatically, quietly. The way things break open in people who have never learned to break open. A small irreversible shift that changes the structural integrity of everything above it. He pulls her toward him. She goes. In the morning kitchen in her own clothes, with the city watching through the glass. She goes into his arms, and his arms come around her, and she puts her face against his neck, and she breathes him in, the specific smell of him, expensive and real, and completely familiar now in the way that only proximity builds familiarity, the kind that lives in the body and doesn't require the mind's permission. He holds her, not the curated version of holding, not the deliberate strategic weight of his hands when he is making a point or establishing a position. Just holding the unmanaged version, the version she has been waiting to find under all the architecture. She holds him back. They stand in the kitchen in the morning light for a long time. Later, much later, after the real conversation that lasts until midnight uncovers things she will not be able to describe to anyone who wasn't in the room. After Tayo arrives Saturday and sees them together in the kitchen and does not look surprised in the way that children do not look surprised when something they have been quietly hoping for finally happens. After the prosecutor confirms on R23 and the documentation is destroyed and that particular leverage evaporates, later she will try to identify the moment when the design became something else. She will not be able to locate it precisely. It will not be a single moment. It will be a series of increments. The heartbeat under her palm, the private version of her name in the dark, the coffee made before he left the room, the gesture that was wholly unlike him, imprecise and almost helpless, the gesture of a man trying to describe something without a technical vocabulary. She will not be able to locate it, and she will decide that this is appropriate, that some things should not be locatable, that some structures are built so gradually and so precisely that the moment of their completion is indistinguishable from the building itself. But tonight, right now, standing in the morning kitchen with his arms around her, and the city bright and cold outside, and the word soon on her phone screen, and everything that comes next not yet arrived, tonight, she is here, in this body, in this kitchen, in the specific gravity of a man who watched her laugh across a room 7 years ago and could not stop thinking about it and built an empire around the memory and then found, at the end of all that engineering, that what he had actually built was something he had no name for and no protocol for and no exit from. Good, she thinks. Neither does she. In the private garage, the floors below the black car's engine turns over, quietly, preparing. On her phone, the one-word message sits unanswered. She answered it. She said, "Whenever you're ready." And she meant it. She is ready. She has been ready since the night she chose the dark and felt the hook going and understood that what she was choosing was not just him, but the version of herself that could survive him and remain herself, and that this version was worth finding even at this cost. Especially at this cost. The engine in the garage idles. The city moves. The coffee in the pot is still warm. She stays in his arms until she decides to step back. And when she steps back, she does it on her own timeline. That's the whole story. And if you made it to this moment, if you rode every chapter of this and felt what Aaliyah felt and got angry on her behalf and then got confused on her behalf and then felt that complicated thing in your chest when he said, "I could not stop thinking about it," then you are exactly who this channel is for. Leave a comment right now. Tell me one thing. Did she win or did she lose? Because I have read the arguments on both sides and I genuinely believe both are correct, and I want to know where you land. Share this story with someone who will have a different answer than you. Put it in your group chat. Post it to your stories. Send it to that one friend who always has opinions about complicated men in expensive suits. And subscribe right now, because episode 13 is already in production, and it starts in that garage, with that engine, and with a question about Tayo that Jae-Hwan has not yet finished answering. You do not want to come in cold on that one dot soon.